We continue now with our Jubilee Year pilgrimage to Italy. Back in July, Father Gary Daly, rector of St. Michael's Cathedral, led our Catholic Communications pilgrimage. In part 2 of the series, the pilgrims visit San Giovanni Rotondo, a popular spiritual site linked to the life and works of St. Padre Pio, the modern-day saint who bore the stigmata of Christ.
We continue our spiritual journey along the Adriatic Sea to the beautiful town of San Giovanni Rotondo in the province of Foggia and a region of Apulia in southeastern Italy. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims come to this sacred place where St. Padre Pio lived from September 1916 until his death in September 1968. Next to the monastery rises the old church of Santa Maria della Grazia, Our Lady of Grace, consecrated in 1629. In this small church, with a capacity for about 80 people, Padre Pio celebrated Mass and heard confessions. It was here that St. Pio received the sign of the visible stigmata in 1918. As Padre Pio gained notoriety for his stigmata, the church became too small to accommodate all the pilgrims who came to get a glimpse of him and to get his blessing. Construction of a new, much larger church was started adjacent to the old church in July 1956 and was inaugurated in July 1959. The main altar of the new church originally had a mosaic depicting only Our Lady of Grace, but after St. Pio of Pietrelcina was canonized in 2002, a figure of St. Pio and an angel in the clouds was added to the design. The basement of the new church served as the crypt for the body of St. Pio from his death until April 2010, when his remains were placed in a new metallic coffin and transferred to the crypt of the St. Pio Pilgrimage Church. The new sanctuary was commissioned by the Order of Capuchin Friars Minor and conceived by the world-renowned architect Renzo Piano. The church can seat up to 6,500 people with an additional space for 10,000 people standing. Finally opened after 10 years of construction and also known as the Church of St. Pio, the new sanctuary was almost entirely financed by the offerings of pilgrims. It was dedicated on July 1st, 2004. It is in the crypt area of this church where the incorrupt body of St. Padre Pio is on display for pilgrims to see and pray before.
We're here in the crypt of the new basilica in San Giovanni Rotondo. This is where the incorrupt body of St. Padre Pio is displayed, and people come here to pray before his body and for his intercession. And so this is a very powerful moment for many of our pilgrims who have a devotion to Padre Pio, to be in the presence of his incorrupt body. And so it's a great blessing today that we're sharing in being present here.
One of the great blessings in San Giovanni is the Hospital of St. Pio, the home for relief of the suffering, known throughout the world. The intention of St. Pio was to create a structure which alleviated the suffering of the sick, to give comfort and solidarity to a person crushed by pain and suffering, both physical and psychological. We now drive a short distance to Monte San Angelo in Gargano. It is a large limestone cave that was a site of pagan worship in Greek and Roman times. This has become a huge pilgrimage destination because it is the place where St. Michael the Archangel appeared in bodily form. The story is that around the year 490, a wealthy nobleman was searching for a bull that had wandered from his herd on the slopes of the mountain. He found it stuck in the entrance to a cave. Angry at the bull for being unmanageable, he tried to have it shot with an arrow by a servant, but somehow the arrow came back and struck the archer himself. The nobleman went to the bishop and told him the strange events. The bishop, sensing something supernatural, ordered 3 days of prayer and penance. At the end of the 3rd day, St. Michael appeared to the bishop saying, "I am Michael the Archangel, and I will that this place be worshipped in earth and will have it surely kept. And therefore I have proved that I am keeper of this place by the events that have taken place." The bishop led a procession to the cave to thank St. Michael, but he did not enter, still unwilling to claim the cave for Michael since the place had been considered sacred by local pagans. The Holy Father told him to occupy the cave and to consecrate it a church. St. Michael appeared to the bishop again. This time, he explained that it was not necessary to consecrate the cave as it had already been consecrated by St. Michael's presence. The bishop entered and found an altar covered with a red cloth with a crystal cross on top. He had a church built at the front of the cave and dedicated it to St. Michael on September 29, 493. The region took the name of St. Michael, and the sanctuary became one of the 4 major pilgrimage sites in all of Europe for centuries. St. Francis of Assisi did not feel worthy to enter, but prayed for 30 days and nights outside the cave. Later, St. Padre Pio would send people needing deliverance from evil spirits to the cave, and they were healed. The cave has been visited by pilgrims, kings, queens, popes, and saints ever since. Stones of St. Michael's Cave are still distributed today, both as general sacramentals and as relics, especially to help against the demonic. We leave San Giovanni Rotondo and proceed to the west side of Italy and make our first stop at the famous Benedictine monastery of Monte Cassino. The Abbey of Monte Cassino was founded by Saint Benedict around 529 AD. The monastery, as we see it today, is a complete rebuild after the Second World War and 4 months of relentless destruction from January 17th to May 18th, 1944. So many explosives fell on the site that the hilltop is now many feet lower than St. Benedict would have remembered it. The tremendous views from the top of the mountain look out over the beautiful Frosinone plain, but are broken as the eye picks out the various war cemeteries on the facing slopes. In particular, the Polish cemetery, where many Polish soldiers died in the war.
We're standing here in the courtyard as about to enter into the Abbey Church, where we will visit the tombs of both Saint Benedict and his sister, Saint Scholastica.
It was here, at the Monte Cassino Monastery, that Saint Benedict composed the Rule of Saint Benedict, which governs all Benedictine communities throughout the world today.